Welcome back to another episode of the Fit Family Podcast. This episode is brought to you by our 35-day Fat Loss Accelerator course, where we lay out the science and the curriculum, the implementation, the strategies that we use with our one-to-one coaching clients in a condensed form where you can follow along at your own speed. Details are in the bio below. Welcome back, Dan, to your own podcast. Welcome back to your own podcast. All right, in today's episode, we are going to be dispelling a myth that has plagued women in the gym in particular. I'd say since the dawn of dumbbells, really. And that is, will lifting weights make you bulky? So to answer that question today, what we're going to go through, I guess, is the science and lifestyle practice required to gain strength and lean muscle in particular. Like, if that is your goal, then this is the podcast for you. And if you're just interested in the general exercise science, then I think you'll take a lot out of this podcast. And if getting bulky or gaining too much muscle has ever been a fear of yours through resistance training, and you're a little bit torn on either enjoying it or not wanting to get into it too much, because you're not a huge fan of that aesthetic, then hopefully this will just make you a little bit more confident and calm in that approach, I think. Has it ever been a fear of yours, Dan? You're getting too swole?
It hasn't, but I did notice when I got more into the fitness world and I was more defined, people definitely feel more relaxed and confident commenting on a fit body than they do an unhealthy body. And I think that's something that people really need to take away, is, what we accept as society norm, and we talk about that all the time. Being fit and healthy people do feel like they can comment in a more negative manner, I guess, than if it was the other way around. Like, people wouldn't walk around saying you look really unhealthy.
Yeah.
But I see it all the time. Like, it blows my mind, especially...
It's one of those things, once you hear it once, you hear it everywhere.
Yeah, especially in the office environment, whenever someone would you could see they were really invested in their health and wellness and making changes. And the first thing I'd hear people say is, oh, they're too skinny now. Oh, don't you think they should stop?
Yeah.
I said, and like my comments always like, I think they look really healthy.
I was actually speaking to a client earlier, and we were talking about how being fit and well is not something, especially as an adult, it's not something that you can kind of cheat. Like you have to do the graft, and often the most supportive people of that hard work are people who are already in the industry, because they know the effort it takes to get there. And sometimes people who aren't necessarily in that space can chalk it up to good genetics, or just that's the way you're built, or this and that. And it's like, as you get older, it gets harder. And there's no doubt that once you pass the age of 25, that whole this is the way I am is sort of, and even when people say that, it's not really the case. Like, you can find lifestyle stuff that they do differently, or that they're typically prioritizing to be well, be fit, injury free, strong, whatever it is. And to kind of chalk it up as that's just the way they are, really does undermine a lot of that hard work. And it says everything about that person. And I guess projecting their own insecurities onto others through statements like that, which is not really where I wanted to take this podcast, but thank you for taking it there. We're talking about the actual science of lifting weights, and will it make you bulky? And
no, I've never been worried is the answer.
It's like, I've been lifting weights for
but
15
other people have been concerned. Like, that was my point when I did start training, that they were the comments that I regularly heard, like, be careful, don't get too big. Like, especially
when we were in an all-female gym, it was certainly more prominent discussion there, or fear there. But also, like, the way people tend to kind of introduce that fear to me these days on the gym floor or in a call is always like, I know this is silly, but so it's almost like people kind of, they understand that it's not there, but it's still just nagging away at them. And that's totally okay. Like, as a trainer and a nutrition coach, we'd always rather you just tell us what you're thinking, so we can either help shape your perspective or teach you what you need to know. But it's almost like a kid who's worried about the boogeyman. It's like, I know it's hilly, but I'm still scared. Yeah, I'm still scared. And that's, it's sort of the analogy that I tend to roll with, is like, the dark is exactly the same as the light, but we're all a little bit more scared of the dark. Building lean muscle.
Hit us with this. Hit us with the science.
Hit us with the science. We're ready for it. So there's a few factors when it comes to gaining lean muscle in particular, and I want to kind of break down your training journey into kind of the first 6 months and then the next 6 months to 10 years, because there is a real difference in the way our bodies respond to the stimulus that we give it. And the results you get in the first 6 months, they will basically fall off a cliff. After that first 6 to 12 months, when you get near your genetic potential, which is sort of the amount of strength and cardio fitness that you can kind of just naturally accumulate through just simply being exposed. So by not taking any kind of intentional measure towards your training or towards your nutrition, just simply picking up a weight, you will get stronger. And then the law of diminishing returns after that is that for every result that you get kind of beyond that first 12 months, let's just use 12 months as the example, it is so much harder.
Yeah.
And I think everyone who's trained consistently for a period of, longer than 12 months will definitely be able to relate to the fact that to see results after that time period, you need to make more drastic changes to your lifestyle. And we'll break down what those drastic changes are, but almost all the results you get in the first 12 months are in spite of your lifestyle. So even if you don't change your nutrition at all, even if you don't go to bed earlier, even if you don't kind of take on some more of those, like, I'm doing air quotations, like athlete lifestyle habits, like prioritizing your recovery, all of those strength results in particular, because this is about strength training today, they're almost all neurological compared to physiological. So neurological strength changes, it's like if your muscle has, if it's at 100% capacity, you may only be using 40% of that. And then even if that muscle doesn't grow, you getting stronger is basically using more of a percentage of those muscle fibers with every contraction. So your muscle size may stay the same, but you're getting stronger. And that's what you'll see with, the Olympics is on at the moment. If you're looking at the weight lifters, and that's how you see 49 kilogram women from Colombia throwing around huge weights without necessarily looking like a weight lifter, is because they have hit that strength potential of the muscle and they are getting maximum efficiency. So there's a bit of a difference between gaining size and gaining strength, and the results you get in the first 6 months are largely down to kind of gaining strength, and then the other lifestyle stuff that comes with training and nutrition and sleeping and recovery and supplements and stuff like that, and also the nature of your training program, and that's a little bit more geared towards gaining size.
Yep.
Okay. So the first one we'd like to talk about is the difference between training and exercising. And I'll let you take this one because I've rambled for 3 minutes and I need a sip of coffee. So it's your turn.
I get a word in sometimes, guys. So we talk about this all the time, the difference between training and exercise. And most people think when they exercise, they are training. Would you say that's a fair assumption?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's because we call it training.
Yeah. So first of all, there is nothing wrong with exercising.
No.
Exercising is...
Wish more people did it.
Exactly. It is great. But that is not where you are going to see gains. So when we talk gains, what are we saying, Ben?
Oh, like physiological improvements towards a designated goal. So, using that first 6 to 12 months, there's a large crossover between training and exercising in that period. But then beyond that, training is specificity. It's specific training designed to achieve a specific result. It's not just getting your heart rate up and doing a few squats.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit more scientifically based with, progressive overload and stuff that we'll get into soon. But yeah, it's just having a designated program to achieve a designated result.
Yeah, exactly.
That's training versus exercising. Exercising is I'm going to get my heart rate up, get a little bit sweaty. So on holidays, we would exercise.
Yeah.
And then when we're at home in our normal routine, we normally have a goal that we're working towards, and then we're training. Even if our goal is to maintain, we're still training. Like, we're still trying to achieve just recovery and feeling better and iron out any niggles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just having a direction. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, that's bang on. And I think we were just talking about beginners before, when they see all those changes at the start and they're just so pumped about it, and then when that stops and they're exercising and not necessarily training for a specific goal, that is where things kind of get away. So once you have reached that point, that's probably a good time to reach out to a trainer or someone who's a little bit more educated in that space and really help them understand what your goal is. And then you'll be able to understand what is required to get that. So for example, if you were looking to build lean muscle, which is what we're talking about today, what would we do? So if I came to you, Ben,
yeah,
and Danny, I've been training for 12 months, I've lost 10 kilos, now I'm looking to gain some lean mass.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that we would do is just assess what you're currently doing. So, okay, we need to kind of get to the bottom of what is it that's going to put our body, as you might be able to hear the stupid dog in the background, who we love very, very dearly. But you need to make sure that your program now is geared towards a response, and your training intensity and your lifestyle is going to be a little bit more advanced when it comes to actually putting your body in a position to gain some lean tissue. And the first hurdle that most people come with this is it takes a big shift with the way that most people view nutrition. So we'll talk about the actual training in a second, but if your goal is to gain lean muscle and you've been in the gym for more than 12 months, you are going to need to eat at either a maintenance amount of calories or slightly more. And most people are pretty uncomfortable with that, is that in your goal of gaining lean muscle tissue, you may get a little bit fluffy in the meantime. And by fluffy, I mean maybe your jeans just get a tiny bit tighter, because you are going to need to provide your body with the resources required that it's going to feel safe actually building a little bit of extra muscle, because we are not really genetically geared to be heavy. It doesn't really help our survival or anything like that if we have a bunch of extra lean, kilograms of muscle to help service every day. So you need to be really consistent with your nutrition and make sure you're constantly giving your body the signal that it's okay. We're not going to run out of fuel. Okay, because if we do nothing, our body will start to kind of metabolize that muscle because it's inefficient. So
also it's probably a good point to just touch on, our body does like fat as well.
Yeah.
Remembering
much more than muscle.
Yeah, fat is it protects our body. It protects all our major organs. So we're not designed to be walking around with six packs. When you see bodybuilders and those kind of people on Instagram, they don't look like that year round. And I really hope people understand that is not their physique.
Yep.
Year round. That is not healthy.
No. Just like an athlete is peaking to be, Olympics example again, they are peaking for this 2 weeks, is the same as a bodybuilder. And then they'll use those pictures all year round. Cool.
Yeah.
But they walk around looking, like athletic people most of the year, and then kind of dial it up in season.
Yes. Just
like every other athlete would.
Yep.
So that's the first discussion, is always the nutrition. And when you explain that to them, most people are like, well, I don't eat in that way anyway, so I'm not necessarily giving my body the resources to gain muscle. So if I'm not doing that, then I'm not necessarily going to get any bulkier. So just there's that too. But also when you realize that the actual intensity of training needs to go up, and I would say that 80% of people don't lift weights at an intensity that is hard enough to stimulate that response.
Yeah. So obviously we've been in gyms a long time. We've owned our own for many years. We've gone into
We've seen the way the general population train.
Yeah. You've been in commercial gyms a lot.
Yep.
So when we talk about like the stimulus, which in exercise world or fitness world, we refer to it as RPE.
Yeah, which is rate of perceived exertion.
So that's basically how hard it is. So if we've got a scale of 1 to 10, how hard is it to that individual? So quite often you'll hear a trainer say to you, how hard is that?
How's that feel out of 10?
Yeah.
If the answer's not 8 or above, it's probably not hard enough if this is your goal. And I mean, RPE is really easy to use, and it's, like I use it a lot. It's, obviously you don't need any kind of drastic scientific measure to judge intensity. But the problem with it is it's very subjective. Like I've had clients who have just been chilling and been like, whoa, 10 out of 10. And I'm like, mate, like, no, it's not.
Yeah, what about other factors? So as a trainer, you'd look, is someone sweating? Is someone out of breath? Is someone grunting? Is someone, there's so many factors that we could take into account to kind of judge that.
Visible strain.
Yeah.
So RPE, or you might hear, if you've looked at programs online, it might have RIR, which is reps in reserve, which would mean that 8 out of 10 means you could only possibly do 1 or 2 more before you kind of hit failure. And RIR is probably a little bit more of the modern use with a lot of programs these days, because it doesn't rely on your opinion. It's just, no, I could only do 1 or 2 more of those before I hit failure. Just looking a little bit more into the actual science of hypertrophy, which is the act of gaining lean tissue. There's a couple of markers that good judges would agree that you have to hit. So the first general rule is that over the course of the week, you need to do 10 to 20 sets per muscle group that you're trying to grow. So those of you who are training maybe 2 or 3 times a week, if you were to just look at your workouts, and maybe it's circuit training, maybe it's strength training, but it's like, are you doing 10 to 20 sets of lunges? Or it can be spread across squats and lunges. It's more about the muscle groups than it is the actual exercises. But are you doing that amount of volume at an intensity that is going to actually initiate that response? And the answer for most people is no, which is, again, totally fine. But this whole, all of this information is designed to kind of just have you understand just how difficult it is to gain tissue. And those
training for only 2 days a week would be so hard.
Oh, very, very difficult. Yeah, like if you're trying to gain lean tissue, it needs to be 4 or 5.
If that is your goal, you'd want to be training a lot more than that. So your sessions per week, would want to be a lot higher.
Yeah, and you would spread that volume, which is, the total amount of reps and sets that you're doing, you would spread that volume over the amount of sessions that you're doing. So if you are training twice a week, then we're looking at, 5 to 10 sets of hard leg exercises every time. Like that is a brutal session.
Yeah.
It'd be much easier to spread that over lesser, over more frequent sessions, I should say. So that's the actual training piece, is the intensity needs to be really high and the frequency needs to be high as well. So it's like you are pushing at a high level of training every week, which means that the lifestyle factors that we're now going to break into is they need to match that. So most people aren't consistently getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night for whatever reason. For us at the moment, it's sick kids, but some people might like watching Netflix at night. There's a level of dedication and consistency you have to show outside the gym if you are going to make this goal a reality, and most people simply don't get there. Which is, again, fine, but you just need to be aware that actually, do I need to worry about gaining size when my lifestyle doesn't really match that? Yeah. The answer is no.
Yeah.
For most people.
What do you want more? It's okay if you don't have a strength goal.
Yeah.
It's okay if you don't have a weight loss goal.
Yeah.
This is where I think people get caught up.
Yeah.
Is that what you want? Yes or no? If that is what you want, X is required.
Yes. If it's what you're worried about achieving, take it off the table, because your lifestyle won't match that. you're not eating enough protein, you're not eating enough calories, you're probably not eating enough carbohydrates. So, yeah, don't even assign any stress to it because it's not going to happen, which is a good thing. That's the whole point, is we want you to lift weights, and you're still going to get so many benefits from doing that without necessarily starting to really adapt like a bodybuilder would. So, yeah, worry about something else.
Yeah, you just use the word adapt. I actually listened to a podcast the other day, which is so rare.
Yeah, for someone who does a podcast, like, she doesn't listen to any podcast. I'm the podcast head in this house.
Yes, I am very impatient. Like, I'm easily lost if people start rambling. So, the adaptation is something that I think people just don't realise. What we consistently do as humans, whether that be good, bad, or indifferent, our bodies adapt.
Yeah.
That is why people can survive some pretty horrific circumstances. Like, people really can be cruel to their bodies, and you're like, what? How do they look like that? Or how are they alive? Or, you know, whatever that may be, our bodies do adapt to survive. That's how we are geared.
They're also extremely logical. It's like, no results that you get are going to be a fluke unless you're kind of accidentally doing a lot of things and it's not intentional. But every result that you get with your fitness can be traced back to something that you're doing or not doing. And identifying what those key factors are can be really important. You know, because it ultimately gives you control over the outcomes when you understand what you're doing and, you know, the changes that you're trying to achieve. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, so once you get to a more trained state, so let's say some of our clients who have been training with us for years, a professional bodybuilder, who I know is unrelatable, but just to give you an idea, they will train all year and have everything that we've spoken about in regards to their nutrition, sleep, lifestyle, steps, training, down to the kilograms lifted per week, total amount of carbohydrates to the grams eaten per week, no cheat meals, none of this, no holidays. They are just professional athletes locked in, and they would be ecstatic if they gained a kilo of lean muscle. You know, like supplements, drugs, natural, not natural, like all of this, like they are chasing a kilogram. A kilogram would be outstanding. In the same way that you watch a sprinter in the Olympics and it's like, oh, if I can just be 0.1 faster, that's like the tip of the spear. So the rest of us, average Joes who, you know, like, I don't want to be that disciplined. I want to enjoy a bugazza and I want to enjoy some pizza occasionally, but it's like I'm choosing not to go down that route, and it's not going to happen by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But that's the thing. It's normalized. Like, athletes, bodybuilders, you know, like, we talk about it all the time. It's like, that's not normal. They don't look like that year round. They don't. What they portray on socials is not necessary. What
you see at the highest end of performing is not going to happen to us by accident.
No.
You're not going to wake up and accidentally be on centre court versing Serena Williams.
No, you're not.
No. Won't accidentally fall out of bed and be like, oh, I'm in the 400 metre final just because I went for a couple of jogs. Like, that's not what happens. And anyone who's been training for a while will understand that, but it's the person who we're talking to who's kind of been a little bit held back on lifting heavy, or feels as though they're starting to just get a little bit too big. Like, this is the podcast for you to just delay those fears. Just before we move on to questions, and I just want to make sure that this point is made. People who go to the gym, and this may feel like a little bit of a rant, I'm not trying to single anyone out, but you need to know this, and they're like, oh, every time I lift weights, I get too big. With all due respect, the average Australian eats 3,500 calories a day, the average adult, which is crazy.
Where did you get that stat from?
Google. So whether or not it's true, I think we can all acknowledge that most general people are overeating based on the health stats that we see.
Oh, 100%.
3,500 or not, like, that's more than I would have guessed. But anyway,
I wouldn't have guessed that high, but yeah, cool.
The government kind of recommendations, and whilst I'm not in love with them, it's just to paint a picture. They're from 1,800 for grown women and 2,000 for grown men.
And this would be not active?
This is just generally speaking.
Okay, yep.
So, you know, just the general population who we can assume is sedentary.
Yep.
Yeah, which means that they're not really that active. So people are eating nearly double what they're supposed to be. So that person who thinks that it's the dumbbell that's making them large needs a reality check. Because no, it's not. It's the nutrition habits. Because in a month, a trained person would be wrapped to gain anywhere from 100 to 300 grams of muscle if they're doing everything we've outlaid to within like 90%. Because gaining muscle is so much harder than going the other way and dropping fat. Like you need a lot more things to line up. So,
and that's a very good point, because a lot of people that come to us with a weight loss goal often say that their fear is getting bulky.
Yeah.
Don't they?
Absolutely.
And just understanding that the weight loss is actually, the easier part.
Yeah.
If you want to gain muscle, that's when you really need to knuckle down.
All you have to do to lose weight, I say like all you have to do, like it's easy. It's not easy, but scientifically, all you have to do is eat in an energy deficit. And there's a little bit more nuance to it than that. But if that's the only box you tick, you will lift weight. But you will lose weight.
Yep.
Yeah. Halfway between shift and lift. But if all you do is train hard, that is no guarantee that you're going to gain lean tissue.
Yeah.
Okay, so just know that like the adaptation is so much more difficult, and there's so many more dominoes that need to fall if that's your goal. And we've actually just had a question come through. Can you debunk the myth that lifting weights and building muscle will make you look like a bodybuilder? Well, we've spent the last 27 minutes kind of doing that, so hopefully it helped. I still get that a lot from my friends, and I'm scared to use weights because I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. This person who's asked this question has trained with us for years, and she knows it's nonsense, but it's just the general feel from the population. So we hope that this has kind of gone a little bit of a ways to just help you understand the level that it takes to actually achieve that. Because I think when you see a person who is, let's just say, well muscled and athletic, like you understand the graft they've gone through, it's like, whew, respect.
Yeah, and without naming this person, who I love dearly, and she has seen amazing results. She has had multiple children.
Nutrition program graduate.
Yeah, nutrition program graduate, trained with us for years.
Yeah.
Is looking absolutely amazing. And you know what catches my eyes here? I still get that from a lot of my friends. The fact that her friends are talking to her about getting too bulky.
Yeah.
Probably a reflection of how they feel.
Well, it's just like we spoke about earlier.
About them.
It's just projecting
because she
insecurities.
Looks healthy. Like, this person looks so healthy.
Yeah. And just to make it clear, it's not that... I don't think people do it on purpose, but I'm always rose-coloured glasses. You tell me this. But, it's just a subconscious undermining of the effort, because when you see other people potentially achieving what you've struggled with and you can't, it's like, well, I have to rectify in my own mind why I haven't been able to do that, and it's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Just subconsciously
speaking. So I think
speaking.
like the more we say these things, like on our podcast, normalize that. Like, normalize having a harder conversation. Yeah. Talk about supporting people, like the kindness, rather than normalizing kind of, or reinforcing.
Just chipping away, or like tall poppy, or whatever you want to call it. Like, that's why fitness communities are so powerful, I think, is because when you're exposed to that level of intensity and effort, and it's like when you see people achieving stuff, like there's nothing selfish about the support that you can give. And we see that all the time. That's why gym communities and fitness communities and online training platforms are so powerful. Is just like, it's just pure good vibes. Or like fun runs and stuff like that. Like, they're a good just population to be exposed to.
Yeah. One of my closest friends actually tagged me in something this morning that I'll share. It says, notice who you're with when you feel like you're the best version of yourself. And you're spot on. You just hit the nail on the head in terms of the community, who you're around, that support. Yeah. That is why people, I guess, sometimes fear kind of those healthier communities, because they feel like they're going to be judged. Yeah. But they're actually, from my experience,
the least judgy communities
the
going
most
around.
Supportive.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And, I mean, it would be wrong to say that that's every community, but certainly the vast majority of ones that I've been in, just pure support and uplifting compared to kind of sniping or taking away.
And you know when people aren't your people. Like,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
join a community and you're
Yeah.
not getting the vibe you need, then
Yeah.
maybe it's not the community for you.
Yeah. I've got a question here from Instagram. Let me just load up my notes again. Is Danny taking clients? I'll let you take this one.
Oh. I am back, guys, and I am taking select clients just because I am doing a little bit of project work in the background, which hopefully we'll be doing a podcast on next week.
Yeah.
Do reach out if you want to have a chat and we can see if we can work something out. But yeah, there is limited capacity there.
Yeah.
But happy to have a chat with anyone.
It's good. Everyone's sick of me, so I need a bit of a fresh face and a fresh voice, which is good. But so 30 minutes down, I think we've outlaid a lot of the general science. There is so much more stuff that you can get stuck right into when it comes to muscle building, just because it is so complex that you can really get into supplements and into different training programs and different styles, and it's certainly, I think, to people who are in exercise, it's a much more interesting field than a lot of people give it credit for. Yes, she's just raised her hand like she's in a classroom. You can speak.
I have my hand up.
Yes, Miss Romano.
One thing I want everybody to take away is it all comes back to you, and I think that's what everyone forgets. Stop trying to adapt other people's methods, and the science is what we spoke about.
Yeah.
But it comes back to you, what your challenges are, what your preferences are.
Yeah.
What, like we said, if you can't kind of train enough or to the intensity that's required to build lean muscle, that probably shouldn't be a goal for you right now. That could change.
Yep.
But you always have to come back to you and your current lifestyle and what you can actually achieve. Don't get caught up in what other people are doing and what's working for them.
Yeah, I mean, we would speak to any new client about is this a goal, and then how realistic is this goal with all the current lifestyle hurdles that you may have, or things that would make chasing this goal easy or difficult. And certainly with a lean muscle goal, it's there's, as you've heard, there's a lot that needs to go right, as opposed to let's strategically help you eat less and lose some weight. That's a lot easier when it comes to, I guess, lifestyle invasion. I call it, how much do you actually need to change? There's a lot. There's a lot. All right, we might call it there. Anything you'd like to add?
No, love it.
Guys, if you do have any questions, reach out anytime. We hope this has got you thinking. Hopefully this has shed some light. And if you were avoiding the squat rack, well, now you have no choice. You need to get under that bar and start punching a few out. Chat soon.
Bye.